credibility. You need it if you're going to make a connection when you're speaking to somebody. You can't just expect that because you have attained the role in your organization, or that because you have been there for any certain amount of time, that people are going to instantly think that you know what you're talking about. I don't know about you, but when I'm speaking and I'm trying to connect to people, one of the hardest things is to really know if they're believing what I'm saying. And you might say, well, how do we get credibility? It's trust. And you could make the throwaway statement that, well, I mean, I just hired this person. If they don't trust me, then they're I don't care. They're done. I'm going to get rid of them because they have to trust me because I'm the leader. It's not how it works. It's your job to build credibility. And so, believe it or not, there's some shortcuts to credibility that you may not realize. I'm going to give them to you quickly so that when you're speaking, try to funnel in these methods to get better credibility. So the first thing that you can do to build credibility with the people that you're trying to lead and speak to is rapport. I know that's not necessarily a speaking thing where you can get up and say, okay, now we're going to introduce by building rapport. But let's say you have a new hire. You can build rapport by asking them about them, by focusing on them. If people see that you care about them, the likelihood of them trusting you is very high, because they're going to say, okay, well, that executive, he asked me about my family. He asked me about my children. He figured out what was going on in my last job and understood some of the pain points. That credibility starts to build as people see that you care about them. Now, I would encourage you from a character standpoint, you don't want to just throw this away and say, I'm doing this just so that people will listen to me. But you actually do want to care about people. You do want to have rapport. You do want to make connections. All right, so credibility starts with rapport. And if you can establish that early in your speaking, even if you're speaking to an audience that doesn't know you that well, if you can identify with them in some way, they will look at you with greater credibility. There's a second thing that you can do to instantly spread credibility throughout your communication. And that second thing is telling stories. I love telling stories. The name of our company is Glint Storytelling Group, because stories are the most ancient way to establish authority and to gain credibility. Stories don't have to be about you. You're like, well, what do I know? I don't have that interesting of a life. I don't have many things that are going on with me. Well, that might be the case, but fortunately for you, you have something that is new. It's a little secret. I'm going to tell you about it. It's called the internet. I know, shocking. Like, do you know the internet? You're watching this on the internet right now. And stories are one of the greatest tools to establish with people that you know what they're talking about, and you know exactly how to understand what motivates them. So a couple things about stories, and I'll just kind of frame this up for you. The stories have to be relevant to the person you're telling them to. Now, everybody has that grandparent that will come to the dinner table and they will tell you stories for days. Like, they'll talk about the war, and they'll talk about the stock market, and they'll talk about their opinions on politics. All of that is fine. But where you have to take it a step further when it comes to telling stories as a communicator is that story has to be of particular relevance to the people that you are communicating to. It can't just be a story because it's a cool story. It has to be a story that matters to them. And the way to shortcut, if the story matters, take a look at a story, whether it's your story or somebody else's story, and try to identify what is the ultimate outcome of this story. What happened as a result of this story being told or being experienced. So I'll give you a quick example. When I was onboarding somebody into a role at the church that I work for not too long ago, one of the things that I instructed them was about making sure that they're making meaningful connections with other leaders in the organization. Now, when you tell somebody as a directive to make connections, it's probably easy to start thinking, okay, like, well, I don't know how to do that. What does that mean? And then also you're going to start thinking, I have a lot going on. I don't really want to prioritize making connections. So what I did was I told them the story about when I first began working for the church and how I didn't know many people. I was new and I had this huge leadership role, but at the same time, I didn't really have the buy-in from everybody. So what I did that changed the game for me as a professional, I've been doing this now for 21 years. What I did to change the game was I really focused on being friends. And I told the story about how I became close friends with the musicians in the church, the piano players in the church. And I said, because the piano players were the ones that were running the band, not me. I didn't know any of the musicians. I didn't know any of the singers. And so I spent time with the piano players. And because of the relationship that I had with the piano players, they enabled me to lead better because I really utilized the connection that I have with them to understand people better and to lead well from a place of knowing people better. Now, just me telling this little story, it caused them to shift their focus on how they could get to know people better and really establish themselves in the organization. So that's a story that I told them. So this is a story inside a story I'm telling you. And why I'm telling you this is you have stories of success, of things that you've done previously that you can use to entice people to take the same actions you took. So really telling people a story that illustrates what you're trying to get them to do instead of just telling them what to do or instead of just trying to give them principles, that is a way to build credibility. That's a way to build credibility. Okay, the third and final way to build credibility quickly with somebody that you're leading and somebody that you are speaking to. It doesn't matter if it's a group that doesn't report to you or if it's your direct reports or if it's an audience. You have to use humility. You have to use humility. You have to be humble. If you come into a situation and you give people the impression that you think that you're better than them, they are going to see that and they're going to shut you off immediately. They're not going to be interested in what you have to say. But humility isn't, and this is a corny preacher thing, but humility isn't thinking less of yourself and downing, oh, I'm terrible at this job, oh, I suck at speaking. That's not humility. And I would encourage you not to be humble when it comes to those types of things. Like, I don't think this is going to go well. Not that way. But if you're constantly trying to inflate who you are, you're constantly trying to talk about how you're always right, you're constantly trying to get people to see that you are the most successful and smartest person in the room, it's over. It's over. Because people deal with those types of people all the time. They're not looking for another expert. They're looking for someone that is willing to make a self-deprecating joke. They're looking for someone to say, oh, I made a mistake in the past doing this. And I'll tell you, this really caused me to have a lot of financial strain because I did this in my last role at my job. When you are willing to admit that you are imperfect and that you're willing to lead from the lessons of that imperfection instead of trying to present yourself as a person with completely unvarnished and untested armor, people are going to be more likely to follow what you're saying because they see that you're real. And Craig Rochelle, he's a pastor and a leadership expert. He says people would always rather follow a leader who is real than a leader who is always right. And I couldn't agree more. So when it comes to building credibility in your role as an executive, who I coach executives primarily and CEOs and leaders of organizations, when you are in that kind of a role, the position has already given you authority. but what it hasn't given you is credibility. So you want to build it, again, by recapping, with 3 ways. Number 1, you are going to make sure that when you're speaking, you're building rapport, that you're trying to make sure that you understand what the people you're speaking to want and need and what their pain points are, and that builds rapport. Secondly, you are going to tell stories. Use somebody else's lessons to illustrate how you can make a better connection in your communication. And last but not least, stay humble. Be humble. Don't talk down on yourself, but do not inflate yourself, because it's not going to get you anywhere quicker. If you're willing to be real and be unvarnished and tell people where you've made mistakes and tell people how you yourself have had struggles, people are going to want to follow you. And most importantly, for this type of conversation, people are going to listen to you. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this quick video. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Share this for someone who might be new in their role that is trying to build credibility with their team. And also, if you are looking to find other ways to speak better and to connect with your audience and connect with the people that you lead, I'm a coach. I help people do this all the time. I help people become better and more confident communicators. And I know that if you invest in yourself as a communicator, I can help you become the best communicator that you ever thought possible. So we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.